Everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Mogabr Show. With me, I have a special guest today. Name is Sabrina Shaheen Cronin, founder and managing partner of the Cronin Law Firm in Michigan. Sabrina has a very interesting story. She's an attorney, obviously, as I just said, the Cronin Law Firm. But how she got there is the interesting story. She's a former musician. And Sabrina, I think I'll let you do a quick intro of yourself before we go ahead and get started.
Thanks so much, Gabe, for having me today. Yeah, I studied music in undergrad, and then I ended up going to law school and getting a business master's degree as well, and master's in business administration. And now I just really dedicate my life on improving other people's lives and making sure they are living to the best of their life and the best of their potential, because I believe everybody deserves a great life. We only have one chance at this life this time around, and everybody deserves a little bit of happiness and
Oh,
peace
absolutely, well
in their life.
said. And I think
So,
in that sentiment, what you've done is actually quite amazing. You've taken your time and effort. You've developed online workshops and classes that are not only available on the Cronin Law's website, but as well on your Facebook and YouTube channels, which you are doing to empower people, basically help them get through, whether it's divorce, single parenting, which you yourself are, um, and
yes.
some sort of financial stability or independence in their life. How did you decide that you wanted to do this? Like, what was the impetus for saying, let me start this?
Well, during the course of my career as an attorney, I would meet people that really needed a little bit extra, a little bit more, hand holding during their case. And it didn't matter whether it was a family law case, a criminal law case, a personal injury, a civil litigation, or even a business case. And I've done all of those cases in my career as a lawyer, because people are different and everybody needs different things. It's like the five love languages. Everybody feels love differently. The way you might need to receive love is different from, say, your partners or whoever. But it's very important to me that everybody feels taken care of and everybody feels heard and cared for. And so, as a lawyer, it was important for me to give people that extra level of service. And I think I just come by it naturally. I'm a pretty caring person. And I often said, my former life, I must have been a nurse because I'm a pretty good caretaker. But um, it's important to give them that extra service, and a lot of attorneys just don't have it in them. No fault, I'm not faulting any other lawyer. It's just some attorneys are just not that way. And please make no mistake, just because I'm caring doesn't mean I can't be a pit bull in court, right? So just because there's one, they're not mutually exclusive characteristics of people. So in doing that, I found that people needed a little bit more. So I offered workshops at my firm. Every few weeks or so, I'd give a lunch and learn that offered more information and knowledge about a particular area. And the last few years prior to the pandemic, I was doing a lot of the co parenting workshops because my practice evolved. And I think it was a natural fit that it evolved that way. They say the universe
Yeah.
presents to you what, perfect timing. And that's really what I was going through personally. So it was a very natural evolution for me. And I started doing more and more workshops, especially for very high conflict cases, providing information and education about how to communicate effectively with your soon to be ex to help the process of divorce be smoother and to help empower the person who I'm, talking to feel better, empower them with knowledge and education and information so that they can get the best out of their divorce process. And then taking it one step further beyond the divorce, once the divorce is final, it was important for me that they have better boundaries, they learn how
Mhm.
to cope, and they learn how to really communicate with their ex so that the children are not suffering. There are so many couples once divorced that really do a disservice to the children and it hurts them long term. So I was doing that leading up to the pandemic. And then once the pandemic hit, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this information out to people? So immediately, my assistant and I pivoted quickly, and we didn't really even have a plan. We just took everything online and we started giving these Tuesday Challenge to
Yeah.
Change programs out for free to everybody. And it was my way of saying, hey, we're all in this together. We can get through this. And let's challenge ourselves to change not only ourselves, but once you change yourself, you can really effectuate change in your environment.
That's
So,
yeah.
and your
No, that's
experiences
great.
in life,
No, that's
right? So
admirable.
that's how we did it.
I think
Yeah.
that's something to be admired that you would even take that on. A lot of people, a lot of, and I'm not going to say a lot of lawyers. I don't know a lot of lawyers, but traditionally the thought that we have of lawyers is if it's not billable, I'm not doing it. That's that's the image that's portrayed in the traditional media. So I think that's admirable because it sort of goes a long way to show not everyone's like that. Some people do have a heart. Like you said, you can still be a pit bull in the court and be a human being outside of it. So I think that that's great. Um,
Yeah.
what
Thank you.
what was let's talk about the pandemic, because you brought that on how you pivoted yourself, but did you see, I'm not sure the right word, an onslaught of people coming to you and it's like, I'm struggling right now, maybe I just want to like kill my ex or something, or I just want like help me deal with this, help me cope. Did you see, like, did the pandemic bring about new frustrations, new aggravations, add a different dynamic to an already possibly strained relationship that might have been there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were a couple different um, effects. The pandemic lasted for so long. The beginning part of it, the first stay home order, when we were all forced to be home and all the businesses were closed, that was a year
Hmm.
ago, April, right? Um, at that point, I think people were just so afraid. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know, if the sky was falling. Nobody knew anything. At first in Michigan anyway, it was, okay, 2 weeks and then another 2 weeks, the stay home order. And then another 2 weeks. It just kept getting extended, extended, extended. And then soon then it was the end of the school year and the kids were still home. And so many families were struggling with homeschooling their kids and then still trying to work. And are the businesses shutting down or can my business stay afloat? And so there were all these extra pressures. And like you said, on a relationship that's already strained, if you're stuck and you have no outlet, you can't go to the gym and work out anymore. You couldn't go out to the bar or restaurant and have fun. You couldn't go to your friend's
Yeah.
house. You had no outlet. And so, yeah, people were definitely on edge. And, there's a saying, when their backs are pushed against the wall, that's really when their true characters come out. And so you saw just an exaggeration of their main personality trait. So if someone was a little more short tempered to begin with, well, then that was like escalated tenfold. If someone had a little more peaceful or calm sort of demeanor, then they were a little more laid back or introverted almost. I saw both
Yeah.
sides of this equation. And a lot of people coming to me, it wasn't just your average divorce. There were very high conflict divorces, especially in the first phase of this pandemic. High conflict divorces, lots of restraining orders, some assaultive crimes. And then over time, that kind of waned. Some people that were on the precipice of a divorce decided for the betterment of the family and monetarily speaking, it was easier for them to just put all that aside, table all of that, and stay together. And then as summer went on, and then the fall, and it kind of got a little easier. But then it ramped up again. So it definitely went in waves. But divorce itself is at an all-time low from 20 years ago because a lot of the millennial generation they're not getting
Yeah.
married.
Interesting.
So
I have just to sort of pivot a little bit, what you were saying about, these high conflict tensions that were there, divorces. How do you deal with that as a person, as a mother, as a boss? How do you deal with that? Like, that's gotta I can't think of myself, in my job dealing with that kind of stress, and coming home to my wife and being able to like how do you decompartmentalize? How do you decompress and not bring it home with you if that's the case? Like, because that would weigh on me. But how do you deal with that?
If you are a caring individual, it definitely weighs on you, or sensitive. It's sometimes very difficult to turn it off. What really bothers me with cases, though, and with some of our clients, is when they can't see the bigger picture. And that's why I really was very passionate about my workshops, trying to teach people that, look, your actions have consequences. Your selfishness, your egocentric driven reason for, wanting retribution against your ex and not being able to forgive, or whatever it is. People are sad, ashamed, depressed. There's a whole host of emotions that overtake someone's personality and their judgment and reasoning. And it's my job as a lawyer and a coach to step in and say, hey, this is not in your best interest or your children's best interest. So it's very important that they see the bigger picture. And that's my job as a lawyer. And there are so many lawyers that will inflame issues. And that drives me crazy. I get more upset at the other lawyer usually than either my client or the other side, because it's the lawyer who has the responsibility to do what's in his or her client's best interest. But it doesn't end with the client. You have to look at the whole family unit. Those children, if there are children involved in a divorce proceeding, those children are a part of the divorce, whether
Yeah.
the attorney knows it or not, or realizes it or not. And it's so crucial for the well-being of them and their lives and the whole family dynamic, to definitely coach your client to say, look, does fighting over, you know, who's going to drop them off at school or who's going to pay for lunches, does it rise does it need to rise to this? It's almost like with a business case, you always have to look at the cost versus value analysis. Does the cost of litigating, whatever issue you want to litigate, does it outweigh the value of whatever
Hmm.
issue it is that you're litigating? You always have to approach a legal matter in that way if you're litigating. And family law is litigating. So it is something that is definitely of major concern to me, not only because I see it every day with my
Yeah.
clients, but I'm a mom. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. And I say to my clients, if I can move past a lot of the things that were happening in my life, then anybody can. If I can look past a lot of it and forgive and move on,
Yeah,
anybody
I
can.
think that's a very good point, and I think that a lot of people, I see that, with a lot of my friends that, when we talk, I mean, we don't haven't been out in forever, but we talk all the time, and friends that are having issues, and it is tough, I think, sometimes to see past your own problems. So sometimes you do need that external voice to sort of bring you back in. So I think that's great once more. But I think that brings up another point. Is like, um, I guess two-part question is: do you want the children, or are they too young to be involved in the workshops with you? Like, I don't know, like, how that works or how that would affect the kids, because is it good or productive for the kids to see mom and dad, or their parents working through potential issues, so that they can see that, hey, they're trying, or is that too detrimental to them?
For the most part, they usually aren't involved, but it depends on the age of the child. If they're around 15, 16, 17, it could be very beneficial. It's almost like a
Mhm.
family counseling session, giving them tools to actually live a better life with better. It's really about communication, learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to assert yourself, developing better boundaries, building self-esteem and then confidence. I always say confidence comes by doing things that you find you can do and you love the result, a successful result to you, whatever that means to you. And by doing things and empowering yourself and taking care of yourself in ways that
Mhm.
matter to you. It could be a number of things, that takes on its own meaning for everyone. What I think is, taking care of myself might be different from what you think. But if a family unit wanted to do some sort of a workshop, I highly encourage that, especially if the both parents are involved, because then it doesn't seem like, one to the other party not participating. It doesn't seem like one party is trying to
Yeah.
alienate or, disparage or whatever against the other parent. So I highly encourage both parents to be a part of a workshop. And then if they do want to extend it to their children, if the children are of an age appropriate to that workshop, then
Is
absolutely.
it hard to sell the work? I mean, not sell the workshops. I'm not selling you selling though, but is it hard to sell the idea of the workshop?
Yes. Yeah, because people are just done. They don't wanna try. They don't care. These are the people that just they want out. They've done all they can. They by the time they get to a lawyer, most of the time they don't want therapy. They don't want to discuss how to co-parent peacefully with with anyone, even if a judge orders it. And I'm hoping my courses will be judge ordered in Michigan at some point, because I find that when a family leaves their family decisions up to a judge, it doesn't bode as well for them. Not because the judges don't care, but
Yeah.
they just don't have time to really get in the nitty gritty. They don't have time to understand, what he said or she said, or, why they're fighting over silly little things. And I've seen the most outrageous cases. I mean, I've seen silly, silly, silly things escalate, to the height of Mount Everest, and the children are suffering. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
it's interesting. I mean, I don't think people realize, unless you're in the law profession, that how much workload, like the judge isn't dedicated to your one case. They have other cases, multiple cases. Maybe if it's a huge high profile case, I mean, I don't know how that works. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel that that should be sort of a mandatory thing before any divorce case gets seen. It's like, or custody case. It's like, have you guys gone to family counseling or something similar? One your workshop. Um, what do you think about your workshop becoming national? I know that you're, licensed to practice law in New York as well as a few other states, but your workshops, they're available online, so it is sort of national. Or
Well,
yeah,
yeah, it's actually global. I'm not practicing law, so from that standpoint, I
yeah,
can take it globally. But the attendees have the benefit of
yeah,
my knowing the law. So in most states, similar things occur in states across the country and even abroad. So it's very easy to say, look, if this were my situation or if I were representing you, this is what I would do. Why don't you talk to your lawyer about X, Y, or Z? And oftentimes I save the attendees attorney's fees and money because I help explain the process. I help them to determine, okay, is this really worth pursuing a motion for? I've represented a lot of private clients in California. And even though California is vastly different from Michigan in terms of the laws, there are still so many commonalities that it's easy for me to say, look, you shouldn't be arguing over this, but instead you should be focusing over here. I was recently asked to talk about the custody battle between Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. And that really bothers me, that case, because those children are suffering right now.
yeah.
And just because these people have a lot of money and are famous doesn't make their case unique. There are so many people that are that way. And what I find a little bit hypocritical now is that so Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt decided to go with this retired judge to act as their arbitrator. So they chose what we call as an
Mhm.
alternative dispute resolution. Because they are so famous, they're celebrities, they didn't want a public forum. So they both agreed to go to this other process and have it be binding. Well, then what I was trying to allude to before with you was once people leave the decision in their fate in the hands of a third party instead of trying to resolve it themselves, well, then that's when, all hell breaks loose. And look at Angelina isn't happy now. She hasn't been happy as soon as the judge ordered Brad to have, temporary custody or more parenting time. She's now wanting to appeal all that. And we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. We have no idea how much
Yeah.
parenting time he's really getting. But that's what I mean. So when you leave the decision to someone else, anything can happen. And those decisions are binding.
I'm just trying. It's just it's sad because all this information is out there, whether through your workshops or books that have been written by countless people, and people just still don't know what to do. And maybe it's because the emotions are running high that they don't do their research or they don't do their homework. And step one is after the fights subside, go to a lawyer and like start the process. I mean, I don't know. I've not been divorced, so I don't know the process or the mindset yet. We all argue with our spouses, but um, yeah, it's interesting to me because it doesn't seem like there is a right way to sort of um, do this peacefully as of yet. I know that there has been people have had very peaceful separations and divorces, and they've moved on happily. The kids have been happy, but as a whole, it seems like the majority of divorce cases you hear about, whether it's celebrity divorce cases or friends, it's always something acrimonious. It's always something that it's just like, if I see her, I'm going to kill her. If I see him, I'm going to kill him. And I mean, not literal, but it's, it's, it,
Well, they hold on to too much. They don't realize that by holding on to all that anger,
mhm,
they're only hurting themselves. And just because you're forgiving and kind or respectful, you don't have to respect the other person. Because if they betrayed you or stole from you or whatever they did, abused you, they you don't have to
mhm,
respect that person, their character. But if you have children with this person, you can be respectful and kind and show your children
yeah,
those values and do the right thing instead of having to be right. I find that people that have to be right all the time are really the most insecure people that can't get out of
mhm,
their own way. And, there's that saying that it's not the snake bite that kills you, it's the venom that seeps through your veins. And when people are angry, you have no effect on that other person. They could care less. They've probably forgotten about you. They're leaving you in the dust. You you have to pull yourself up.
mhm,
Be a big boy, big girl, and get on with your life because you're only hurting yourself and your children. So if you can't be the role model, if you cannot be the person you want that other person to be, well then there's a problem and you need a lot of work on yourself. And a lot of my workshops, the challenge to change was born out of that. Be the person that you want to see in this world, be the person you want the other person to be. I have a client who, talks and talks and talks and talks about how this other person just always does them wrong, is never kind to them, is never this or that, and yet, and it's not a divorce situation. It's more of a probate matter where there's family squabbles. It's
okay,
it's a completely different type of a case, but she's constantly talking about how awful this other person is to her. It's another woman, awful to her kids, awful to this. They're not outgoing. They're not nice. They ignore them. Blah 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 blah. And then she just gossips about it, talks about it, talks about it, talks about it, gossips. I mean, they're saying where your focus goes, energy flows. So she's creating this to be this huge thing, gossiping all over town about it. Well, it's getting back to the other person. And so it's perpetuating itself. So why do you think the person isn't talking to you? Why do you think this person isn't being kind to your kids? If you really want change, then you teach your children. If you can't muster up that inside you, you teach your children to be the better person and go up to that person and say, "Hi, how are you?" You know, don't don't be so blinded. You have to look at yourself first. your life, the external aspects of your life only mirrors what is on the
Yeah.
inside. And even if you're a kind and loving person, if you're not kind and loving to yourself, you're not going to see that reflected back. If you're gossiping all the time, what do you think is going to happen to you? You know, if you don't take care of yourself in ways that you want showing up in your life, it's going to still continue. So, get out of your own way and don't always have to be right. And at the end of the day, who the heck really, what
Yeah.
does it all matter? What is it all for? Just, honestly, at the end of the day, you just have to be
Yeah.
a good
Very well
person.
said.
And I think people have to lose sight of that.
Yeah, I
So
actually absolutely love that. And yeah, just be a good person. I mean, what else can you say actually after that? What's next for you? Are you going to continue your workshops both to be online and in person once, I mean, we've started opening back up already. You know, peop it started happening. Are you going to continue to do both or are you just going to focus on one or the other?
I'd like to do both at some point. Right now, we are still focusing online
Yeah.
primarily via Zoom, but I definitely want to have a live event. Right before the shutdown, I was scheduled to have a really
Okay.
big event in person, and then we just had to cancel all that. So I would like to continue to do small and large classes, and I still
Okay.
do individual coaching. So outside of the practice of law, and sometimes my law clients, my legal clients, want me to just give them a little extra hand holding, or they'll call me. It's like I'm their counselor. We have attorney and counselor under our names, and sometimes my hat, is tilted more toward one way than the other, but I enjoy it. I love being able to give to people and serve people because in serving others, that's really the meaning of life. It helps just everything kind of go around, and
Well, I
it
think you
helps me in
answered
the
my next
process.
question, which was going to be,
So,
what are you most proud of with everything that you've done? But I think you just answered that.
well, I'm proud of the fact that I'm a mom to
Yeah.
three amazing kids. So that's my biggest achievement. And it's not always easy. Being a single mom is definitely it has its challenges. But that aside, my doing what I'm doing now, really giving back to people in the community. People sometimes say, why, if you're so nice, you're being too nice. This person was a jerk to you, or this person screwed you over, whatever it is. And I say, you know what? They obviously needed it more than I did. It's sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard being the good guy all the time. The saying, "Good guys finish last." But I look at the bigger picture, and I know that it, just because I'm a nice person doesn't mean I'm a pushover. And I know that by doing right by others, even if they screwed me, I don't want to change who I am just because that other person might not be as
Yeah.
high a quality of a person. So I'm trying to teach my children and teach others around me and be a good leader by showing them what a good leader does and how to act and show them the values that I think will bring about a
Hmm.
better community and really a better world in the end. And right now, I think we could all
Absolutely.
use
Well
that.
said. Sabrina,
So
I know how busy you are. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I am extremely grateful for you appearing on my show. Really quickly, I
thank
am
you.
going
I'm
to put
grateful
all
to
the links to,
you.
where they can find you on in the show notes, but anything you want to leave as a last tidbit before we end?
I don't know. I just am so grateful to be here. And life is an evolution. We're constantly growing and learning new things because if we're not doing that, then we're wilting away. And we don't want to do that. We want to get the best and most out of life. So live your best life, be positive, be grateful. And you can find me anywhere you search on social media: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And please look me up on my law firm page. They can sign up for my workshops there, and I'll soon have my own website that they can go to as well.
Excellent.
And I really appreciate your time today, and I just really encourage everyone to try to find that silver lining because everyone can focus on the
Yep.
negative. Everyone. You have to build that muscle daily
Yeah.
to focus on the positive, and then
So
your
true.
life will
So true.
change.
Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.